so good to be back on this stage again. I was last here 7 years ago, actually, as a Medi competitor. Back then, I was leading a digital health startup developing a new sensor for cuffless blood pressure monitoring. My company was acquired about 2 years ago, and where I now at Cardiex lead the innovation in heart health, and where I continue to work and innovate technologies and solutions that's relevant for anyone with a heart. I'm also a health economist. I spend part of my time at University of Cambridge, where I'm studying and researching into the economic burdens of vascular aging, and that's what I'm going to spend some time talking about today. Vascular aging, I have not heard of that before. What is it? Well, we see ourselves aging on the outside, right? Our skins become a little bit less elastic over time. Well, that's happening inside our bodies as well. When your artery is pliable, flexible, it's able to dampen the workload from the heart. As it stiffens over time, it takes a lot more work for the heart to send the same amount of blood to the rest of your organs. This is important because that is our superhighway delivering nutrient, oxygenate-rich blood into all of our major pieces of organs that's keeping our bodies running, whether that being your kidney, liver, obviously the heart, all the way to the brain. And this is relevant from head to toe. Why are we talking about it today? Well, while we had a good run towards impacting heart health, right, cardiovascular disease mortality was trending down until about 5 years ago, and now it's back up on an upward trajectory. What can we do? We know that it's not technology. As I was pulling the slides together, I actually saw that home ownership of home blood pressure cuffs is actually trending at about the same rate as cardiovascular mortality. So we know that cardiac patients or anyone that is dealing with heart disease, they're all very compliant. In fact, I remember when I first started my startup, had a meeting with Dr. Topol, and he said, every single one of my patients goes home and buys a blood pressure monitor. So we know that they have the right tool. And one thing that was actually very surprising to me is that home blood pressure monitor ownership is actually pretty much in line with the ownership of smart watches. So it's not that we have the wrong tool. We actually have the right tool, but perhaps we're getting the wrong data from them. And part of the reason is actually the use of blood pressure, right? Blood pressure is a silent thing. The signals are silent. It's abstract. 120/80 applies to you, applies to you, applies to me. But we all have been to, who's gone to the office, the doctor's office, and said, oh, my blood pressure is really high because I'm kind of stressed. I've just walked to the office. Nurse will say, well, let's just wait. We'll take it again in 5 minutes. We'll take it again in 10 minutes. Go home, monitor it, and come back. It's something that's moving beat to beat. In fact, I can probably tell you that my blood pressure is probably 30 points higher standing on stage right now. And because of that, it lacks storytelling power. We can't see what our blood pressure is. I mean, who knows what millimeter of mercury actually means? I have no idea. And then because of that, too, we don't have that emotional immediacy with it. Yesterday, we saw the video of someone with essential tremor, and then with a tool, that stops. That's powerful. We can't do that with blood pressure. So what can we do about it? Well, first of all, we don't reduce heart rhythm to 2 numbers, right? EKGs are complex. There's lots of information in there. Well, there's the same pressure wave that's traveling through our arteries all the time. So why do we reduce that down to 2 numbers? Our heart load should not be 2 numbers. And we are here to change that. There's a treasure trove of vascular biomarkers that is pulsating through our body with every beat. And my company has been working on decoding that for the last 30 years. So on the left, you will see a peripheral waveform, which that we can see with any wearable devices, blood pressure cuffs, that tells us exactly how our pulses are doing. Our technology takes that waveform, then translates it into a central pulse waveform, which represents what is going on inside the heart. And we decode all the different points, whether it's timing-related, amplitude-related, areas under the curve, and assemble a lot of data about what is going on in the arteries. What then we can do is now begin to phenotype what is happening as you age. So this technology has been used in clinical research over the last 30 years. Over 2,600 peer-reviewed papers have used this technology, tens of thousands of contributors to those papers, one of which is this image that you see on the screen right now. So about 15 years ago, University of Cambridge actually studied and profiled the central hemodynamics on 10,000 subjects. Of those 10,000 subjects, 4,000 of them are considered healthy. And so what they did then is profiled, well, what is the normal vascular aging of individual across your age? Now, we have that information, and now can start to say, well, where are you on your arterial stiffness, and what is happening? And furthermore, we actually now know the increase in cardiovascular risk when you are starting to experience early vascular aging. And it's significant, right? 2 to 3 times more risk. And in fact, a study of the data in the Framingham Heart Study found that 2 out of 3 adults aged between 50 and 59 actually show signs of early vascular aging. And I bet you never even thought of that or knew that before this point. So that's what we're doing. We are contextualizing that information into something that's tangible and understandable. Is your risk high, medium, low? Are your measurements normal for your age? Does it exceed the threshold that's been clinically validated and done in large population studies? And we assemble that together. Your arteries are telling you something, and this is why you received a device when you checked in, because I believe everybody should know what their risks are. So I encourage you, if you haven't done so already, go back to your hotel room tonight, sit down, download the app. We actually have a workflow that will walk you through about a 10-minute assessment, and it will quantify what your risk is. And if you want to see an example report, my team will have little sample reports that you can see what that looks like. And feel free to grab one on your way out. So the health belief model tells us that change only begins when we feel that we are susceptible, that the risk will happen to us, and that risk, when it happens, it will be severe. Vascular phenotyping really gives us the why. So that's today. We're here to talk about what's next, what's near, and what's next. Well, we've been working on taking our algorithm and applying that to wearable sensors. Last year, we validated that through a PPG sensor, which is in smartwatches, wearable rings, we can produce these vascular biomarkers at the same level of accuracy as the gold standard. And now we're working with wearable makers to now integrate these technologies so that this data is available on everyone's fingertips. Why is that important? Because this is now where it gets really exciting. We've heard a lot about digital twins, and today's cardiovascular digital twin really consists of genomic data, metabolic data, and rhythm. Our blueprint, the fuel that we're putting into our body, and then the electrical system that's working. But it's missing a key component, and that is that workload of the system and the remodeling of that system, or the flow. And this is what we call arterial intelligence, the other AI. So with that information, we now can complete that picture and be able to say, hey, as your body is changing, as the disease is progressing, or the disease onset, what is the impact overall? And then are we trending the right direction or wrong direction? Because this data is not simply reactive, right? What's happening in real time, it's also additive. Tells us what is the cumulative impact. And because, this is what we all want to, right? We want to have that roadmap of, hey, I know what's happening, what can I do? How do I course correct? And taking an inspiration from Ken yesterday, we don't want to see a graph like that, but instead, I'm looking forward to mapping that onto the ways for the body, where we take the vascular biomarker data and then early detect an early course correction so that we can get to better health outcomes, and very much getting to that 100-year plus lifespan. That's really ideally 99% healthy. So with that, thank you for your time. Come by the Innovation Lab, come by the workshop this afternoon, have a chat, and thank you again for the opportunity to be here.